Hey, everybody. This is a beautiful Friday, and I decided I'd reach in real quick. Lots and lots and lots of stuff is going on. Obviously, it's ridiculous, the kind of stuff that keeps flooding through. First, a shout out to everybody. I have family out in Oklahoma. My cousin Millicent and her husband Daryl have been sending videos, and they're pretty mind-blowing as to the devastation in terms of the flooding that's taking place there. So first, I just want to send a shout out to them and everybody else out in the central states that are struggling with devastation. You know, as we know, this is going to cost millions and millions and millions of dollars, and lives are going to be uprooted and upset, and it's going to take a long time to rebuild. And we know from experience here on the East Coast that often is promises are made, but they don't always deliver economically when they say they're going to. Who's that? Hey, how are you, Wayne? How's everything going today, Kelly? How's my girl and her big, beautiful family doing? Anyway, so I was just sending well wishes to all of our family out there, our people out there in the central states, and my family out in Oklahoma who are dealing with this devastation from these storms. And as we know, sadly, from our experiences here on the East Coast, that promises are made, but they don't always deliver as it comes to rebuilding, because I know they're still trying to rebuild in South Jersey, as they are still trying to rebuild in North Carolina and many other places. So I'm going to send my prayers. My cousin's been sending some videos, and it's just devastating, the water damage. Highways just ripped up. Water's up to the tops of the brims. It's really bad. So, you know, we take for granted we have everything one day, but it can all be taken away in a second, no matter who you are and no matter what status you have. So to that, I ask that we all continue to remain humble and supportive of those who are struggling. The other thing I read and posted this morning was that Missouri is getting ready to threaten to close their abortion clinics and not renew their agreements. And as you guys know, and I feel very passionately about this subject, I'm disheartened, and I'm worried, and I'm concerned, because they're acting without even having had it go to the Supreme Court and really hashed out in the court system. But there's a lot of decisions that are being made that are indifferent to young women and childbearing age. And again, as I had shared in one of my other posts, the agenda is to ensure, sadly, the agenda in pushing forward this abortion issue is sadly not because it is about Christianity and the right to life. It's because, unfortunately, those in power, the demographics are changing, and brown and black people are populating, and as a result of that, the white population is reducing rather substantially in this country, and the long term looks as though they will no longer be the majority. So the way to control that is to force the issue of women, i.e. 60%, I said this before, 60% of Caucasian females get abortions. They are not having children at the rate, even though women of color have abortions as well, and their numbers are relatively high. 60% of white females are not having babies, and so the white population is reducing pretty substantially in this country. So what do? You disrupt everybody's lives. You just disrupt women's lives. You violate women's bodies. You put out there that a rapist is ultimately has the right to do what he wants with a woman, and or she's forced to have a rapist baby. Now, again, I'm no psychologist. I just know a little bit about psychology, and I know about the different diagnoses. And one of the things we had to do was write up assessments and look at the DSM. Which is the diagnostic psychological manual, and we'd had to cross-reference different kinds of behaviors and psychosis and manias and things like that. That stuff is genetic. In many instances, people who suffer from mental illness, or if they're automatically predisposed genetically, unless of course it's drug related or drug induced. And as a result of that, not only are you asking this woman to have the child of someone who violated her, reduced her to nothing, and stole her being, now you're asking her to have that child, and you're asking her to rear a child who is genetically predisposed to often mental health issues. So I just want you guys to take that in mind when you're having these discussions and debates with people about the right and wrong of it. Take into consideration there are lots of layers under the surface that go far beyond just the idea of a woman not having the right to choose, or the idea that this country is trying to take a woman's right away from her to choose. But what I wanted to do was just also reference to the fact that according to the FBI statistics, and I said this once a long time ago, 2/3 right now of the growing crime rate in this country, the fastest growing crime rate is sex offenders. The fastest growing crime rate in this country, according to FBI statistics, is sex offenders. So we have, on one hand, a system that is not doing anything to address that problem. And then on the other hand, we have a system that is imposing on women that they can be violated, and then are forced to take on the child if they got pregnant. So 2/3 of these sex offenders are committing crimes. The majority of them are against children. Think about that. Just process that for a minute. Children. What you all are also not aware of, and that I would be aware of as a mother, and a mother who has lots of children who were daughters at one point, what they're doing to our milk, what they're doing to our food, what they're doing to with GMOs, and how they're compromising our diets, is causing hormonal imbalances in our children, our daughters in particular. And as a result of that, our daughters in particular are getting their periods at a much earlier age than they once did. And they're going into puberty faster, and so as a result of that, they are also a population that can fall victim. So you have sexual predators running amok in this country and not being addressed because our policemen are spending too much time picking on a brown or black man or woman who happens to be standing on their front lawn, cleaning it up or mowing it, instead of focusing on the real offenders. And now we have to worry about, besides the fact that our children are disappearing at exponential rates, now we have to worry about the ones that are around being violated sexually by a sex offender, and to boot, if they happen to be in the wrong state and get pregnant by that sick individual, they will be responsible for carrying that child to term. There are so many things that people do not think about when they make these stupid laws, when they create these stupid bills. It always comes down to race and money. Really? Well, the cost is by far exceeding physically, emotionally, psychologically, and economically to this country, to these children, to the future of this country, than you can ever even imagine, compared to the importance of having you maintain your white status or your white population in a country. It's sick. It's sick. And I can't emphasize enough that everybody show up when everybody starts marching and everybody does these events and these movements and these petitions go around, and also to supplement and or fund in the states that are still going to allow abortions to proceed, or Planned Parenthood, be ready to donate, because the budget's gonna be cut substantially, more than it already has been. The budgets are gonna be cut, so that's something you have to take into consideration. What else did I want to share with you? As I said, children, 100,000 children on average per year are victimized of sexual abuse or inappropriate behavior in some way, shape, or form. In addition to that, a good chunk of that is experienced through online. So those of you who have children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews even, I implore you, be parents. I know that we have this new way of doing business, and our attitude is that give them their space, respect their privacy, let them know, that you honor their individuality and all that good stuff. But you know what? They all want parenting. I just said goodbye to this 16-year-old, and I can tell you the boundaries that I set for him, he appreciated, he valued, and he stepped up. He stepped up with every single one of them. He stepped up with every single one of them, and he's 16 years old, and he wanted tough love. So I implore all you parents and grandparents and loved ones who have children out there, give them tough love. Set boundaries on those cell phones. Set parameters around those cell phones. Insist that every Friday you have an opportunity, or when they're not looking, take their phone, screen through their Facebook pages, go through their Instagrams, make sure you have all their passwords. But keep in mind, the fight with them is worth it in the long run compared to them being manipulated by a sexual predator online. Because again, 1 in 25 will experience, 1 in 25 of our children in this country will be victim of a sexual predator by online attack, by online manipulation. And another reason for that is because, and often is the case, the children are being reared in single-parent households. So you have childbearing women, many of which are struggling economically to maintain their homes, maintain their well-being, maintain their children. And we have a country that's decided, well, we're going to go backwards in time, and we're going to tell those women who are trying to make ends meet, if they're lucky, making more than $15 an hour, trying to raise their family, trying to give them a decent education, and we're going to turn around and tell them during one of the most devastating times in our history, where the attack against women is greater than it's ever been, where the economic instability is, in my opinion, really serious, especially when you look at what the Trump is doing as it relates to tariffs and trades with China and other places, and inflation, the consequences to the farming, food costs are going to go up, the cost of products and services are all going to go up. But you're going to impose on a woman, here, this is what I'm going to tell you to do. I'm going to tell you to go out there and make your little $8.50 or your little $15 an hour. I'm going to tell you to feed those 3 children, and then on top of that, I'm going to tell you, if you happen to have a person pull you down an alley one day and rape you, you're going to have that baby. And if you don't, I'm going to send you to prison. I'm going to send you to prison. And if you attempt to abort and I find out about it, even if it's in another state, I'm going to send you to prison. And I'm going to leave your 3 living, breathing, healthy, relatively healthy, hopefully healthy children in a foster care system, or left without their mother, abandoned psychologically, emotionally, physically, and psychologically, because the most important thing in this country is to make sure there are enough white people living in this country. Pretty sick shit, if you ask me. So, what I also wanted to address was I posted it, I said it before, women's bodies are complicated, and often is the case, medically speaking, you cannot tell the difference between a miscarriage and or if you've had a DNC or a abortion. So there's also a large percentage of women who could possibly end up in the judicial system unjustly, because they are accused falsely of having an abortion when in fact they didn't, and they simply had a miscarriage. Not to mention, keep in mind, this is a prison for profit system, and it's increasing tenfold. More and more are jumping on the bandwagon of, yeah, let's just put them all in jail because we get money. In this government, we get paid to imprison people. So they're locking up every single man they can think of. So now let's start locking up more women, and we'll get paid, and we'll also have free labor, because in many states, It's 20 to 40 cents to the dollar earned while one is in prison. The pillows that you're sleeping on, the mattresses that you're sleeping on, the sheets that are made, the clothing that is made, all of those things are on the sweat and the backs of sometimes innocent people, or people who should never have been prosecuted to begin with, but didn't have the financial means to defend themselves appropriately in a court of law. Or in this instance, they'll go to jail. A woman will go to jail, and she'll do servitude, which is modern day slavery, all in the name of racism in America. All in the name of racism in America. So I wanted to just, in closing, ask you guys to take into consideration, also on closing on this particular subject, ask you to take into consideration what the psychosocial effects are of what's happening in this country right now to our families and to our children, and what it's also going to, how it's also going to affect women. One of the things that there are long-term consequences anytime we're experiencing trauma, and right now we're all in a traumatic state. Whether we realize it or not, we're all in some kind of asymptomatic of some kind of trauma, because we're seeing, all this violence and this attack against everybody out here of different walks, of different races, of different religions. We're seeing the bloodshed here. We're seeing the bloodshed abroad. We're seeing what's happening with the starving Yemenis, and the as I mentioned, the Palestinians are being plummeted. They're being raped. Their land is being raped. Their homes are being raped. Their schools are being raped. Their water is being raped. I mean, violation after violation after violation. So, from my take, when right now there's a young man who's getting ready, Smith, I can't think of his first full name right now. Someone is getting ready to go to trial for leaving water in the deserts for the Mexicans who are trying to flee to the United States. He was working with a non-profit organization, and he was getting ready to, they were leaving water, and he was arrested, and his trial is about to start. I heard yesterday on our community talk that they are talking about ticketing people who feed the homeless or give money to the homeless. So what does that sound like to you guys? It sounds like, as I was saying in my last messaging, the bullies are winning. The bullies are actually penalizing the good people. They're hurting the good people. They're trying to punish human beings for being decent, civilized, compassionate, kind, concerned humans. Which again goes back to why I keep saying speak up. Speak up and push back. And also, I ask everybody to take into consideration that when you don't, not only are you feeding into the symptoms of trauma, but that when you violate your voice, when you suppress your voice, when you suppress your anger, when you deny your natural morality, your truth, it creates other kinds of symptoms. It creates depression. I was reading, it causes, it compromises relationships. It increases stress with your dynamics in your intimate relationships, and those relationships professionally speaking. It causes, in some instances, the same symptoms as post-traumatic stress, stress disorders. You get agitated, self-esteem goes down, shame-based attitudes increase. How can we walk around every day knowing that there are people out there dying or being abused or being sacrificed in the name of a corrupt government, or murdered or shot, children dying on the streets, all the horrific things that are happening at the hands of colonization and oppressive corporate interests, and not affect our spirits. So you'll see increases in people who show depressive type symptoms, withdrawal, as I said, temperamental behavior, angry, aggressive, low self-esteem, not able to adjust. Now, if that's happening to us as adults, what do you think it's happening? What do you think the consequences are to our children? So I'm always about solutions, and I keep posting in the feed solutions, or telling you guys the solutions. The solution is speak up. The solution is get actively involved. The solutions are to show up in areas of interest that you feel passionate about. The solutions are to raise hell any which way, spread the word, talk, have meetings, try to get people on the same page in terms of the importance of understanding who they're voting for and who the players are that are currently running for office, so that we can get this son of a bitch out if he's not impeached, because it still remains to be seen, since the entire system is relatively corrupt, and of course the Senate is behind him 100% and has literally sat there and lied through their teeth and violated all the laws of this land in the name of their own interests. Start pushing the agenda now in terms of bringing awareness to the table about who the players are, who's going to be best, who's going to protect women's interests, who's going to protect black and brown people's interests, who's going to protect children's interests, who's going to pull back, who's going to put stronger restrictions on the National Rifle Association, who's going to really get this shit fixed, because it's bad. It's out of control, in fact. So I repeat, I posted names of corporations and companies and organizations that we could very inadvertently and unintentionally be supporting. We're putting our money into the bad guys' pot. So I ask you to go back through and read some of those posts and understand who you're playing in bed with, who understand who the players are, who the corporate interests are that are funding this agenda and this attack against American citizens, and trying to oppress us and suppress us and dumb us down and force us into an ignorant, complacent, fear-based existence. There are lots of companies who inadvertently support, and there are some companies that directly support. Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Yuengling Beer, Coors Beer, Home Depot, not Trader Joe's. There's a couple of others, companies that, the Big Tree, Lending Tree. Let me see who else I have here. Amazon, Apple, and Google all support. I shouldn't say support directly, but they buy into and or play NRA TV, which endorses, of course, NRA having power, having control, and having no restrictive laws imposed on them as it relates to dealing weapons. So, I'm just sharing. I'm just trying to keep the move going forward. Just trying to get everybody woke, as they say. The more woke we are, the more empowered we are. The more empowered we are, the more we have a chance to make some shifts. In our community talk, they talked about the fact that even though Harriet Tubman was going to be the new face on the $20 bill, that was also blocked. Yes, another racist act. So one of the things that we're doing is hashtag no Harriet Tubman no 20. So boycotting the $20 bill. So for anybody who's going to the bank, ask them to give you everything but 20s. If you're getting change at the store, tell them you want everything but a 20, and also tell them why. Because the government refused to put Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill as originally had been planned. So that's another thing. I just mentioned it while I was in the bank the other day, and I told them I wanted everything but 20s. I told the bank tellers, and there were people to the left and right of me, and both of them responded positively, and both of them said, hey, I really like that idea. I'm going to pass the word on. And the tellers were laughing but appreciative, and they said, yeah, I get it. It makes sense. So people aren't stupid out here. They know what's going on, but it doesn't mean anything if we know what's going on and we're not actively involved in trying to do things that are going to make some changes or create a shift. The tidal wave is coming towards us, and if you remember the tidal wave, I had a dream about that tidal wave before it came, and the destruction that it did, the devastating destruction that it did in Japan, it wiped everything out. I mean, it erased everything that people knew. Entire cities, communities, structures vanished. Imagine that in relationship to this administration and what he is doing with his friends, with his corporate interest, with his 1%, and those people in the highest positions who are playing us all like pawns so they can continue to get rich. It's sick, it's dangerous, and the only thing they fear is an uprise. When people uprise, a mass uprising, and people pull back their economics and they boycott, then they listen. So I plead with you, if you do nothing else, pull your money from any interest that means you and your loved ones harm. That would be your best weapon of defense. And I would continue to encourage that, along with any other things that you can do. So on that note, I think I'm going to close out for today. It's beautiful. I'm going to try to soak up some more sun. My son's big day is next week, Saturday, so I'm really hyped about that. We're going to do Justice of the Peace next Tuesday, and then Saturday is going to be an absolutely amazing day, and it's, you know, sinking in that I'm going to be the mother of a son who's going to be a husband to his beautiful wife. It's pretty mind-blowing. And I was hanging out with friend Mike Downey the other day. Everyone who's from high school knows who he is. He's a community leader here in Harlem, and his girlfriend couldn't make it, so I went and hung out with him. And as you know, they acknowledged and honored all those community leaders that are, you know, being appointed and or being reappointed to their positions, and he's been doing it for 12 years. But we were joking about the, you know, how we went to high school together, and it's 40 years later. 40 years, right? Time waits for none of us. It waits for no one. But in that honor, that time also has consequences to our future if we don't do what we're supposed to do with it now. If we're not cognizant and considerate and sensitive to what we do with time now, it could be very costly to our futures and the futures of our children. So do whatever you can to make time work for you, for your loved ones, and for everybody collectively, because this is a joint effort, and it's a joint battle. It's not a one man or a one woman show, not in any way, shape, or form. So again, enjoy your weekends. I'm going to finish up getting myself hopefully ready for my all the little details that I have to get ready for the wedding. And of course, after all is said and done, I will be sure to share all the beautiful pictures of my beautiful daughter-in-law, her family, my family. It'll be an emotional time because, of course, Dad is no longer going to share those special moments with us. You know, we especially expected that we would have him with us on this really amazing day. So it's going to be a tough day for everybody, but it's still a day of celebration, and we're going to celebrate as if tomorrow is not coming, and appreciate what we have and count our blessings. So I will share everything after, because I have specific instructions not to share things until after everything has taken place. I'm giving my daughter-in-law her moments to, share appropriately once everything is over. So anyway, I'm sure I'll be on again before the wedding if time allows, and if anything else comes up juicy and interesting and sadly frustrating that I have to raise some hell about, I will do so. And please pass on this information, whatever information I'm sharing. I'm not doing this for my health. I'm doing this so that the word gets out to as many people as possible. And to that, I just wanted to say, hey, Daryl, how are you? Good to see you. Stephen, how's everything with you? Hey, Andre, how you doing? Thanks for the support. Renee, Sweetie, you look beautiful, and your divorce is doing you well, and there's lots of really decent human beings out there, and I'm sure you'll find someone who's going to pamper you. Jonathan, how's everything, love? How's your beautiful family? Congratulations to your daughter's graduation. And let's see, Howard, how you doing? Hey, cuz, how's my cousin Texas doing? I'm sorry that you're not making it. I'm heartbroken that none of you guys can make it. Truly heartbroken that none of you guys can make it to the wedding, because it's not going to be the same without you. But I understand, things come up, life comes up, so it's all good. Moon, thank you again. Moon, as I mentioned once before, she was with me at my graduation. I met her literally at my graduation. She was sitting next to me at the graduation, anxiously waiting for her mother to show up, and I gave her moral support until she did. And she's been supporting me and following me ever since, and living a beautiful life, I might add. And to Sharon, hey sweetie, how are you? Kelly, of course, thank you. I love you. I love you. Wayne, always thank you for my support, and everybody else out there that continues to listen, share, post, and be change makers. Love you. Have a wonderful, wonderful, safe, blessed weekend. Take nothing or no one for granted. My best advice. And by that means just being active, being a change maker. All right, peace. Gotta go. Talk to you later.